Hello and welcome to a Simple Therapy podcast. I'm Sindee, your host, and today I am really honored and excited to introduce you to my guest. Her name is Marissa Wells. Marissa is a licensed professional counselor in Arkansas and an aging family educator who is all about helping families make sense of the tough stuff that comes with aging without losing their minds or their connection to each other. She's passionate about bringing hope and clarity to those tricky moments when adult kids and grandkids are trying to figure out how to care for their aging loved ones. And I'm in a place like this too, so I am really looking forward to her wisdom. On top of that, Marissa is a licensed supervisor who loves helping new therapists find their footing, discover who they're meant to serve, and build a self-pay private practice that actually works for their life. Both topics are so near and dear to my heart as a supervisor, as a daughter of aging parents, and I am just really excited to meet you. Thank you for coming, Marissa.
Thank you so much for having me, Sindee. I'm excited.
Yes, great. Me too. For anyone who's listening, if you want to check out her website while we're talking, it's mwells.co, not .com, .co. So you can check that out. We'll make sure we talk more as we're going with other links. But let's just dive right in. You have a specialty working with aging families, and the realities of aging families strikes so deep. It strikes the people who are aging. It strikes their relatives, their kids, their friends, their caregivers, like so many things, their communities. And how did you even choose to focus on working with aging families to begin with?
Yeah, great question. One that I get very often. So, with any of my supervisees, like the first thing I think about is what is your passion population and where does that come from? And so, for my story of working with aging families, it's really about my own family and navigating the difficulties that we had with our aging grandparents, and even my great grandmother was my first experience with aging families. And so, after my grandparents passed away, I realized that there was this huge gap in the counseling world, not just social work, but counseling specifically, where we weren't really helping caregivers, adult children, and grandchildren navigate these things because we're in this role. You automatically focus everything that you have and all the energy inside of you onto your aging family members, and the caregiver is often forgotten. And so I saw that firsthand with my parents.
Mm.
Yeah.
With your parents, watching what they were going through with your
Mhm.
grandparents, and then
Yes.
you were lucky enough to have a great grandparent.
Yes, absolutely. And whenever the most recent grandfather passed away, just the roles and relationship shift that happened inside my mom, I really grew a compassion for her in a different way. And so it kind of sparked this always burning interest in this population, but really specifically this family orientation around aging and geriatric issues.
Yes. Marissa, I think we don't often hear that perspective shift that you just so vulnerably shared, like when your mother lost her father, right? And
Mhm.
again, we're talking about loss, and my heart goes out to you for the loss of these dear ones. I think it's really important to, we're trying to sort of talk about this in an
Yeah.
educational way, but it's also deeply emotional. And
Mhm.
so, what did you actually notice, or how did your compassion shift for your mother?
I just saw her in a different way of not just my mom, but also a daughter, because I am a daughter myself. And so I kind of can really be empathic towards that of I saw her as a daughter grieving and not just my mom. And
Mhm.
so, and then really what happens a lot with these aging family issues is these role reversals. And so, whereas she was always a daughter, she's never had to be a parent to her parent. And we got to that point with all three of my grandparents, actually, of she had to really be the parent in their relationship. And so that was really hard on her as to being the parent to somebody you weren't meant to parent.
Right. Which then in turn starts our journeys of going through that. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that about
Mhm.
seeing your mom in a different way. And that's such a
Mhm.
gift to our listeners that we might have that chance too, because then it opens our hearts more to
Mhm.
seeing someone in a more expansive way. Oh, she's also a daughter. Oh, he's also a son.
Mhm.
And I think that's hard for most kids, adult children, to even go there.
Yeah, and I've always, like, logically known she is a daughter, but to see it actively inside grief, yeah, definitely opened up a new perspective of that.
Yeah. Wow. So you have your own family experiences that then led you to see like missing gaps in help and resources and decided to go into this field.
Yeah, for sure, and from my research, especially in my area in Arkansas, there aren't a lot of professional counselors in this kind of space. One reason, because primarily that population uses Medicare as an insurance coverage. And currently, as you know, I'm sure that professional counselors cannot be credentialed with Medicare. And so while I love the geriatric population, and actually that is my soul, like that is my soul life's work is to work with the aging individual. But I had to get creative. I had to feed my family and create a business. And so I'm a problem solver by nature. And so I was like, okay, how can I touch this population, but in a way that, they're already to the point where maybe they have dementia related symptoms and they can't cognitively function that's appropriate for therapy. And so I thought, well, the family, of
Mm.
course I'm going to help the family. That's my story. And so it just kind of went from there.
Wow, that's a really creative but helpful solution. And then you can still keep your license, which you spent years and lots of money earning. And unfortunately, these are just bureaucratic things that a lot
Hmm.
of people don't know about, that there's certain restrictions for different licenses, even though we all have the same training and the same licenses.
Yes.
It's hopefully getting better, but the families do need it. So that's amazing. Tell us a little just about, like the work you do in terms of counseling and coaching families who are dealing with aging relatives.
Yeah. So, really, the first thing I do is just kind of get a picture of where they are in their family, what they're navigating currently. And one of the challenges I've had is keeping the adult child or caregiver focused on self. They always tend to focus on their loved one that they're caring for and really diving into their story and how they got here and what they see their role like. And then we go through a lot of actually solution focused techniques of we have a problem and we figure out how to solve it. We work through decision making. We go through value systems of when we make this decision, where is it coming from and why is this important to us? What does end of life care look like? That's all values based. And so, yeah, I just kind of explore all of those facets with them. And then also connection, relationally, role reversal, things like that. And so it's very dynamic, yet focused.
Yeah. So, Marissa, when you're doing this counseling, are you working with like multiple family members, individuals? What does that look like? Because it sounds like it could be a lot of different, systems that you work with.
Yeah. So I've worked with caregivers, meaning spouses of the person they're caring for, couples, so a daughter and her husband, or even sibling pairs. A lot of the times we have a value system of remaining intact and connected at the end of this. Doesn't always work out that way, but if that's the goal and the value system we're basing things off of, then the sibling pair is a great clientele to bring into the therapy room to really work through their relationship. So, really, any type of relationship counseling, it doesn't matter who or how many are in the room because we're focused on that relationship component.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And still, you see that sometimes you're trying to help them focus on themselves or their relationship and not just the aging person.
That's it. That's it. Because that value system, depending on what they bring into therapy, of, I don't want to fight. I don't want this to be about money. I don't want this to be about he said, she said. I just want my brother. I just want my sister or whomever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And I think I've shared before that my my mother was, well, she's in an assisted living, and that's safe and going well, and she's
Mhm.
happy, thank God. So it's a really good situation. And my sister lives in that town, so she's there, and she's
Right.
kind of like the primary helper. But before we moved her from an apartment to this place, my sister was still the one mostly in charge, and my brother and I flew out like once a month to be there and to help, and it really created a lot of friction between the siblings, even though we love each
Yes.
other so much. But everyone is pitching in, like sort of in the middle, you just jump in, and it could really make for, unfortunately, a lot of conflict when all we want to do is help my mom and take the burden off of whoever the sibling was doing the caregiving, but it can sometimes erupt. And thankfully, once she got more help and is in a better place, everything has worked out so much better. And
Yes.
we're very much getting along really well because we also, I think, feel more secure about mom now. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah. There's not that fear or the
Hmm.
unknown of what are we capable? What might this look like? There's a little bit of safety and security in places like that.
Yes. And I don't think we realized that was so much of what we needed. Because you're so much in the thick of it, right? When you're in that caregiving role, you're
Mm-hmm.
just doing the things and trying to like get through the day. Even though it's a privilege, it still becomes this, I got to get through the day.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And there's this new attempt to age in place. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard that term, but yeah, to really set things up ahead of time so that it makes it more feasible to stay in your home longer. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind that because things are getting more expensive. People are having to work longer. And so we're seeing the sandwich population. So these are the people who are raising children and caring for aging parents, and they're sandwiched, and there's like this pressure point, and it becomes a lot. And so my whole goal and to be proactive is to say, okay, we've had this experience as an adult child caring for our aging parents. What can we do to learn from that and to turn our pain into purpose and create a systematic plan so that our values are matched when we are aging?
Mm.
Like, I love that work of like, okay, I know I don't want that, or I want this, or what do I need to do now to set myself up to be able to do that based on my value system?
And I feel your passion for that coming
Yeah,
through.
it's way
Yes,
deep.
it is. It is. And Marissa, I can see people who have been there, who've been touched by this and already done that. Say, okay, yes, I'm on board. Let's work this out. But what about somebody who hasn't? I think also we really need that.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Those people who are in this place where maybe financially they're not able to, maybe whatever trauma related issue that's happened, or it may be the familial issue, generational things. There are a lot of barriers to people being able to age well. And so I think it is a big issue. I wish I had all the answers, but I think that as each person gets help in this kind of niche that I found myself in of helping aging parents, I think it's important to reflect and leave things better than we found it. And there's no shame in that at all. Like there's no shame that, you know, what I know now, my kids are going to know better. They just
Hmm.
are because of development and technology and system changes and things like that. And so there's no shame in that. In fact, it's developmental and
Yes.
it's how it's supposed to be.
I also love that your kids are learning something different than what's in the sociocultural norm. And what
Hmm.
it is like aging is a normal part of life, not to be scared of it. Death is a normal part of life. How can we see like that there's something that we can be a part of, whether it's to connect with our relatives who are in that place of aging and and
Mhm.
death and dying, how to make sense of it, have purpose, and have like
Mhm.
a spiritual connection during and
Absolutely.
after. And we are missing this in our society today, I think, at least in the Western society.
Yeah. And if I had my perfect scenario, it would be someone who is end of life, and this is professionally working with them, end of life, reflecting on regrets, reflecting on where do you go when you die? What do you believe in? Do you feel purposed? How can you even find purpose right now and how you're dying? Like, that is an unbelievable position, and strengthens my faith and actually keeps me going. One of my earliest experiences with death and dying was with my great grandmother, which kind of sparked all of this passion. I was actually the only one that I had the privilege of being with her when she passed. And so it was just a very intimate moment that you can't convince me that there's not something bigger than us because of that moment. And so, yeah, it was just very special and really just enlightened me to move forward and how important family is, and really just has set the trajectory of this in my career without knowing it. I didn't know that
Mhm.
at the time, but reflecting back, I'm like, that is a defining moment of, okay, I have a bigger purpose. And, this is one of the purposes of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, you were young then. You weren't even,
I was
you know,
19.
19. Right. We don't
Mhm.
know anything when we're 19.
No,
Yeah.
no, we
And
don't.
so, what a blessing and a gift
It
that your
really was.
grandmother gave you, and clearly God gave you to
Mhm,
have that experience and be with her and
mhm,
experience just how sacred a time that is.
mhm.
And I've worked some with death and dying and hospice and still involved in ways, and I know what you're talking about. And we
No,
need,
it's heavy. It's very heavy, but it is real.
yeah, it's real.
Mhm.
And there's a huge need. And we could go on and on about this topic, but think about the devastation during COVID when people had to die alone.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
that still completely breaks my heart.
Absolutely. It's so interesting, how when we age, we begin reflecting on like these timelines. And that is some work that I do with clients too about the timeline of their life. But my grandmother, who was my person, you have those people you're like, man, she is my person. And
Oh,
so in 2019, her dementia had worsened horribly, like very bad. And it came to a point where we were praying, like, God, this is not what you designed for her. Bring her home. And so it was right before COVID happened.
mm,
And we were able to be with her. And I know that that is a very blessed opportunity. But if it would have happened 6 months later, oh, my life could look differently.
right, right. Oh,
And so it's just, my heart goes out to those families
mhm.
that did not get to experience that. I remember seeing videos of like hands on windows and just horrible. It was
It's
horrible.
terrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've gotten chills twice talking with you already, Marissa. That's so beautiful that you could be there also with your grandmother that way. But yeah, I mean, I've talked to physicians who've been clients who were traumatized by that whole thing. They said that the hands on the windows, or they still like, oh, I'm going to go to a new hospital, but I don't know what it's going to be like when I
Like
walk into the
something
ICU again.
inside. Yeah. Like
Mhm.
something inside was like, this isn't right. Like it like
Yeah,
something deep inside. Yeah.
yeah. So we are covering a lot. And one thing you said, going back to like the caregivers, you say they are often the forgotten ones because maybe they're the sandwich generation that are just super mom and super daughter and doing all of those things. And so you really try to find a way to reach out to them. I love this creative thing you've done by making a Facebook group for people who are dealing with aging. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I just felt in my soul that an hour with a client was not enough. And so I was like, how can I reach more people? Because my license limits me to Arkansas. And so when there's a gap, I feel like I need to fill it. And so while there are other caregiver groups and things like that, the focus on mine is the aging family, about how can we think about this holistically and totally as a family with resiliency and connection and preparedness. Those are my top three priorities for my group. Of like, I feel like knowledge is power. And the more prepared we can be, the easier it is to grieve. That doesn't make it easier, it just makes it healthier. And so, yeah, my group is a free resource to people. Obviously, current clients can't be in that group because of
Sure.
ethics. But
Okay.
yeah, and so anyone can join that nationwide, globally. And I just kind of share tips and tricks, and I have guides and resources that I actively use in therapy with people.
Wow. That's so generous. And again, I know that's part of your value system and heart to like share so much with others. It's really beautiful. What's the name of the group? We'll link it for sure in the show notes.
It's called The Aging Family.
Wow. Great job. You got that title. That's awesome. The Aging Family. Check it
I'm a
out.
simple person, really. I have to simplify things a lot of times.
Oh my gosh. So am I, Marissa. I like things simple. So,
Yes, I love it so much.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that's really cool. You mentioned about role reversal, and I wanted to share an example that's happened in my family that we
Mhm,
notice. Which, I think is really telling to what you're talking about with like those role reversals, whether it's having compassion or what actually happens. And it's really very common, but my brother's is the baby in our family, and he is the one who primarily takes care of all of my mom's details. Like he's the
okay.
finance guy,
He's the
my
administrator.
administrator, and sends her coffee and toilet paper and takes care of her checkbook and credit cards and all of that. My sister is the medical person, and so as mom's dementia has unfortunately gotten a little worse, I mean it's not terrible but a little worse, she
Mhm,
often calls him dad. And at first we were like, what's happening? And then we realized this is just how she experiences his caregiving of her, just
mhm,
like her
mhm.
father would have. And so most of the time, we don't even say anything different.
Yeah. No, not y'all are operating in her reality, which is a key component to being in a relationship with someone who suffers from dementia. Is a lot of times people struggle with, well, I've got to convince them of the reality, but they're living in a reality that you can't convince them otherwise. And so it really creates this harboring of emotions when we are in that constant conflict of reality, but there is not a possibility that they can come out of that reality,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you for explaining that. I actually never kind of connected it that way, but it just seemed like the thing to do. And
Mhm.
at the beginning, I think this is where we all need counseling and coaching and education because we don't know. We think, oh, maybe it's not the reality. Maybe it can switch. And that's not always the case. Sometimes, but not always. And so, how do you stay with your family member in their reality, grieve for yourself? And that's what you
Yep.
help people do. What are you
Yep.
experiencing? And this is amazing work you're doing.
Thank you. And I'm really proud of you guys for kind of being active in those roles. And I just want to encourage you that they're likely to switch, and that's okay. To
Mhm.
be in constant conversation about how are you feeling about this role that you're in, and how are you doing, and is there anything that I can do or switch up to help you grieve better with this situation, because those are dynamic roles. It's not something that you subscribe to or say or really anticipate being involved in. And so that constant communication about well-being is very crucial to keeping family intact.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, you are such an expert in this.
I don't
So
know about that.
I do, yes.
Well, thank
Oh,
you.
so how do you help families or caregivers or individuals start having these age-related conversations, like earlier, before the crisis happens?
Yeah, that's a big one. Man, it's very complex because it really mimics historical communication of how have we communicated in our family throughout our history and even the roles in that. And so I tend to lean towards tentative communication because I think if you have super confrontational or direct conversation with especially siblings or even your loved one, that's when emotions get high and they're more likely to intensify with family than anybody else.
Absolutely.
Uh, because what I've always heard is like family's family. We're always going to be here, which not the healthiest perspective because we need to actively work on those relationships and be the best version of ourselves. But yeah, I think a tentative communication. So what that would look like is, hey, brother, I'm here and it looks like you're really being an asset to our family, but I just want to make sure, that if you're feeling burdened, that you're able to come to me and talk. And how are you doing with that? And I wonder what it would be like if I took something off of your plate. So, really tentative and a wondering, a possibility mindset with communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with our aging parents, what I've seen work a lot is to communicate like, hey, I have some concerns, but before I express my concerns, I want to know how you're feeling about your current situation. To really have an empathic type of perspective, it validates your own worry, but it also is like, hey, do I need to be as worried or do I need to kind of regulate that in myself?
Hmm.
And then really thinking about how do we know when we need to make decisions? Those are some of the conversations we have too of what are you comfortable with risk wise, safety wise, independence wise. 9 times out of 10, the biggest issue is I don't want them to hurt themselves. And God forbid they hurt someone else.
Yeah.
That's the main concern. And so there are ways we can navigate that before it gets to that through tentative communication.
This is so powerful. Those are great examples, great, mini scripts. Thank you so much for that. And for therapists listening too, this is a little bit of a mindset shift compared to how we usually work. And I want to emphasize that because it's so important. Sometimes we have to change our interventions or our techniques and do something different. And maybe a tentative approach isn't always what therapists are trained to do in school, right? And
Mhm.
yet, this is how it works in this kind of family system. I
Mhm.
love that. Beautiful, beautiful examples you gave.
Thank you. And I do want to say that this type of work, because people come in not necessarily a processing mindset, they come in I have a problem and
Absolutely.
I need help fixing it. So they're coming into the counseling relationship in this I need tips, I need tools, I need techniques. And
Mhm.
obviously, I give them options of like, here's what's worked in this situation, but let's think about your own family and how it may not work with that. So there is processing, but it's not like this, it's not typical counseling processing. It's very hands-on.
Yes, and it's hands-on, it's directive because they're also giving you that permission. They're asking for that
Mhm.
versus the therapist just giving unsolicited advice or direction.
Absolutely.
So we
Absolutely.
always look at that permission-based process, and yet I
Mhm.
think the deeper processing is happening through your work because it's impacting at that family level, which again is always with us, like you said.
And the purpose and the values and how can we take this and navigate the future. I mean that's deep work for some of these clients who've never had the opportunity to really think and focus on those things.
Yeah. And, Marissa, like you, I really share those values. One of the reasons I am a couples therapist too is I believe so strongly that it's almost like a spiritual precept. If we can
Mhm.
help create that peace and good relationship between the husband and wife, then, or the spouses, then it moves through the household, the family, the
Mhm,
community. And this is really the same work that you're doing.
mhm. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, yeah. So we've looked at a lot of these realities, challenges of aging families. Is there anything else, like any final words of encouragement for families navigating aging?
I think, like I said, the caregivers are often forgotten, and I don't mean someone who is physically doing the care when we're talking about caregivers. I'm talking about the people responsible for decisions and support, whether that be adult children, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, whomever. And so it is a forgotten role because you're so focused. And if you have questions about, is this normal? Should I be experiencing this or should I be feeling this way? I want to encourage people that that's typically a signal, a healthy signal of self preservation, and that you can reach out for help, that there are people out there who want to hear your story and help share the burden of what you're going through. And so don't buy into the same narrative of you're forgotten. You're not forgotten. And you deserve to have healing and progress just as anybody else.
So beautiful. Thank you for that great advice. Yes, thank you so much for this amazing information. It's a gift, a true gift for all of us because we are all going to be going through this for ourselves and for our loved ones. And it's wonderful to get this information. Just truly a blessing to me to have you on, Marissa, to learn about how you're helping families dealing with aging. You've definitely even helped me in this short time. This is the first time we've met. We're going to hear the second part of our interview in a second segment, so stay tuned for that. And if you can share with our guests where they can find out more about you and your work with aging families.
Yes, so my website would probably be the easiest way. That is mwells.co, not .com. And so that has my blog. It has all the information about my counseling, supervision, consulting. I also do that trainings on aging family issues. And so I'm actually in the process of getting MBCC certified so that I can offer CEUs with some of these issues because there is a gap in the counseling world. Yeah, so those are the ways that people can get in touch with me for counseling. And then my free resource Facebook group is called The Aging Family. And so if you just search in the groups, you can find it. It is a membership, so it's completely free, but answering the questions will help me know who is in there and just keep the integrity and intention of the group.
Wonderful. I encourage everyone to check it out. Thank you again, Marissa. And until next week, stay heart centered.